Ever since the release of Halo's 8th episode on Paramount Plus, I'd been thinking about doing an overall review of the season once episode 9 had released. And now that it has, it's time to gear up and begin the fight. Now, before anything else, I just want to preface this video by saying that while I did enjoy the show for what it is by no means without flaw. So, what did I find enjoyable? To start off, the one thing that I've probably enjoyed more than anything else in this show is character Dr. Catherine Halsey. Like, where do I even begin with her? Natasha McElhones, I probably butchered the name, but hopefully got it right. Her betrayal and the writing for her had me completely stowed within the first episode. How so? One of the first things that's revealed in her first scene is that she's secretly continuing a project, later revealed to be the project for creating Cortana, an AI to help Master Chief. And more so. Already, we see her trying to be sneaky, which, unknowingly to my friend and my own delight, was a taste that we weren't prepared to get more of. But we'll touch more on that in a bit. Later on in the same episode, when all the Marines are geared up to potentially take down Master Chief, who at the time was disobeying orders, we see her tell the rest of Silver Team that should anyone try to take down John, they're to be seen as enemy combatants and eliminated. Like, holy cow! Already within the first episode, not only do we see her continuing projects that she's not allowed, but she's even willing to order others to legitimately commit treason to save one of their own. Ultimately, though, nothing happens as Chief escapes, leaving the rest of Silver Team having no more reason to increase their respawn timer. But don't worry, her proactive moments don't end there. Oh, hell no, they don't. Remember what I said earlier about her being sneaky? Yeah, in episode 6, she makes use of an emotional conversation with her daughter to copy her daughter's retinal eye pattern onto a contact lens in order to gain access clearance to everything. Now, you may ask, well, if I've already said that she's sneaky, how is this surprising? Answer, because in episode 5, during a battle scene in which many are dying and being brutally injured, she leaves safety to help out Miranda when she's in trouble. And to go from risking your life in order to help your daughter to going behind your daughter's back, family's back, and take advantage of family, it still baffles me. Like, it's completely mental, and I still love it. But even still, even when we think we've seen peak sneakiness from her, she manages to top herself yet again in the final episode. In the final episode, when she's running to escape a crashed escape pod that she used to evade one of Silver Team, she's found and captured. When we later see her in detainment, we see her dying, only to find out that the Halsey we see isn't actually Halsey, but a flash clone, and that the real Halsey is being smuggled off Reach. Like, I'm done. I'm done. If the Covenant wanted to win the war, they should have just hired Halsey, honestly. And I will say this. The one main difference I've seen with her depiction in this series as compared to the other media I've seen is that this version seems to be more sociopathic, but that's only added to her character in my opinion and helped make the show more interesting and entertaining as a result. My god though. I can't even begin to fathom what they're going to do with their character next cuz my friend and I clearly don't know jack about her at this point. Kai was another character that I found myself to really like. Although compared to Halsey, it took a bit of time, reason being that she mimics what John does and takes out her pellet, which is tech which suppresses a Spartan's emotions, tastes, etc. And at first, it seems like she's in a bit over her head, but later on, we see her come into her own. Like, there's a scene where it shows her lifting up extremely heavy pieces of equipment, including a warthog with Marines in it, by use of a rope, and then afterwards, she gets money for doing so. To see she's having fun with her superhuman strength is just so nice to watch since that's something that anyone with superhuman strength would do. Also, just helps showcase what she's able to do as a Spartan, which is another plus. And to me, her final shining moment in my eyes was when in the final episode, she aids Chief from being captured by the rest of Silver Team who were ordered by Halsey to capture him. And it's just a real plus, seeing her defy orders like the Chief because she feels that something is just off. I love it. I don't really have too much to say about Riz and Vanek. Vanek had a couple good one-liners, but other than that, nothing too memorable in my opinion. Same with Riz. I mean, they're Spartans. It was cool seeing them do their things in the fight scenes, but other than that, they were fine. Hopefully, we see more of them individually in season 2. Cortana was enjoyable, a lot of good lines. Love seeing her start as someone who simply followed Halsey's orders to one who decided Halsey wasn't always correct on everything and even ended up turning on Halsey to help John. And I'll just say, for the amount of times that she's been dissed by everyone so far, the fact that she's still willing to help, she's got the patience of a Buddhist monk. As for John, like Cortana, he also had his moments. Favorite part of his arc was him realizing that authority wasn't always right, nor could it always be trusted. He also had some badass fight scenes, which we'll be getting into in a bit. Soren I thought was pretty cool. Enjoyed learning about his backstory. He also had some badass moments and lines, like Risen Vanek. I thought he was fine. Wish we had more of him, but maybe in the future. As far as the internal USC drama is concerned, I honestly didn't mind it. Some elements I thoroughly enjoyed. I enjoyed the idea of Spartans turning against fellow troops to defend Chief. Added another layer to the mix. The Dr. Halsey moments I already discussed. I found the fight between all the Spartans to be entertaining for what it was. More on that later. And speaking of fight scenes, I wouldn't mind having several more in the show for season 2. Throughout, I thoroughly enjoyed the action, the graphic gore, the first-person view that we got with John every now and then. It just made it feel like a video, but IRL. Chief hijacking the Banshee, him going berserk mode to save Kai, him facing off against 3 groups at once, against his 2 fellow Spartans. Just more moments like these in Season 2 would be great. Alright, now that I have talked about the good, time for the negative. Time for another Halsey essay, but for Kwan Ha. Before I delve into this, I want to say flat out, I'm not against his character per se, but I am against how they utilize his character. I mean, out of the 6 episodes that she's in, you could have easily cut her out of the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th bit, and not really miss much of anything. The reason I say that is because until her last appearance in episode 7, there are 3 episodes where she's nonstop whining about needing to fight for her home and her being the equivalent of a brat when no one is agreeing with what she wants to do. Don't get me wrong. Having a character that wants to take back and reclaim something, as well as getting upset that no one wants to tag along, those aren't inherently bad things to give her character. However, not once during these moments did the character try to step up and do something productive. In fact, they did the exact opposite. In what I believe was her second to last appearance, episode-wise, Kwan hit Soren over the head after the both told that Kwan's family no longer has any money. Now, for a bit of context, Soren brought Kwan back to her homeworld in exchange for some money since she exclaimed her family was wealthy. After the both told otherwise, Soren locks her up to a vehicle saying that he's now owed money while she's whining about how she still needs to fight for her home. He then walks away and comes back later to be knocked out by her. Like, her decision to do this was so incredibly stupid that when my friend and I saw that, we're both like, what the actual F? Like, you want me to care for a character who's not only constantly whining about a desire to do something, but then have her backstab the only person who is willing to assist her because now he wants payment and she can't deliver? Nah, man, you lost me there. Like, that was a moment in which my disdain for the character became solidified. Going from whiny child to whiny child who backstabs when things go wrong. But don't worry, in her final episode appearance, she goes from whiny backstabby child to a calm collected fighter. And all it took was a drug-induced dream where she dreamt about her ass getting kicked by the Master Chief and then having a talk with her father where he tells her that she has strengths that he has never had and that she's a protector. I'm sorry, but which one of the writers were smoking weed during this segment? Because up until that point, she had showed none of those traits that he spoke about. But, hey, we need to give her some character development, right? So, let's just have her speak to her dead dad and have her magically be more mature and rational. I mean, on the bright side, that segment gave us the first appearance of the Monitor, but like, eh. The only positive thing I can say about her is that her last fight scene, she did save Soren once, since she was level-headed and calm, but even then it just still felt rushed. Ironically enough, John or Master Chief is another character that I got some criticism for. Nowhere near as bad as Quan, but still some things to be said. First, being the fact that his starting attitude towards Katana made no sense to me. He's told that she'll help him out in battle, help him be more efficient, and he just gets butthurt about it. Like, I get it. his emotional pellet, quote unquote, is out. But if the guy wanted to be as efficient, um, as one would reason, he'd take all the advantage he could get. The Master Chief I know and love doesn't care about ego or pride. He just cares about getting the job done. Another moment that warrants criticism. Another moment that warrants criticism. Him about having an emotional outburst, yelling, and jumping towards Halsey when he finds out the truth about his past. Okay, to be honest with this moment, my friend and I just laughed at it because it was funny, but in a stupid kind of way. Like, you're telling me that this man, who's been training in the military since he was a child, who's been taught to think logically, critically, is going to go on a tantrum when he finds out the truth, even with his emotional palate out? Yeah, I ain't buying it. Don't get me wrong, him feeling upset and angry is one thing, which I can completely see, but letting that control his actions, not very Spartan-like in my opinion. If anything, I could see him much more evolving Halsey as a result until they finally talked, where afterwards you could tell that their connection would be injured for a while. But that's about it. Moving on to fights, which I mentioned before, only negative I have about them is the fact that I felt like there should have just been more. The ones we had were good, but just left an itch to see more of those kinds of scenes, so hoping for more of that in Season 2. Circling back to the UNSC drama, as much as I liked the little skirmish between Chief and Vanek and Riz, I couldn't help but chuckle at the reasoning behind it. Halsey tells Vanek and Riz that Chief has been compromised and to get him back, and when Riz has a shot on Chief, Vanek tells her to take it. Normally I wouldn't take an issue with this if it weren't for the fact that Vanek earlier in the season said that Spartans were to be bonded to other Spartans and nothing else. So he says this, and then later obeys an order to go against Chief. Okay, sure, man. Gotta love consistency. Speaking of which, also wasn't a fan of how they decided to keep the Spartan memories and past hidden from them just for some easy cheap drama. In the Fall of Reach animated series, which basically serves as a prequel to all the games, Halsey in the UNSC never hid from the children the fact that they were kidnapped or, in her words, chosen. That their new family was their fellow Spartan candidates and to just do what they were told. They're kids. What else are they going to do? And from that point on, that's all they came to know and grew connected to it because they accepted it from an early age. Like, what's the point of suppressing memories? I know Keyes had said that if John learns the truth, he'd turn against everyone, but I don't even recall them discussing the reason of why they had to keep the truth from the Spartans in the first place. Like, even if they had just said it would have helped the Spartans with their trauma to forget their previous lives, that still would have been a better reason. But no reason at all. So, cheap drama for the sake of having it. Before I end off this video, I want to talk about the things that I feel like could have been potentially better executed, as well as what I hope to see in Season 2. First and most obvious, Kwan Ha. Remember those 3 episodes where I said you could have cut her out and not missed anything? I would have loved it if we could have seen her helping the citizens of her planet, potentially even wanting to get into dangerous situations to protect people. Since she constantly talked about freeing her home, just being more proactive in general about her goals. That way, even if she's reckless, we're still able to empathize with her and see her succeed, want to see her succeed, even though she still has so much growth and improvement to work on. Second, I would have loved it if it showed her thinking about getting in touch with the Chief about the whole portal to Halo. Would have given us something to look forward to later. Now, as far as the Master Chief and McKee and their quote-unquote relationship is concerned, am I necessarily opposed to it? No. If anything, one sec, because I actually didn't have enough footage for this, so I have to go back a bit. No. If anything, though, it provided my friend and I a good laugh simply because of how ridiculous it was. In all seriousness, though, if they gave it more time and duration for the two characters to connect, then sure, I feel that they might have been able to do something with it. Maybe not that far, but I could see Chief getting close to someone. At least this particular version of him that they decided to go with. Last thing I felt like they could have done better was the ending. Sure, now Chief is dead, with Cortana now having control, and the prophets somehow still alive while being completely vulnerable to gunfire. But all that aside, from Chief suddenly being dead, the anticlimactic ending, good guys won, bad guys lost. Like, I know season 2 is already greenlit, but the only consequences that seemed to take place and or was emphasized was John dying, which, don't get me wrong, it sucks, but I'm hoping Cortana having taken over is a preview for what John could eventually turn into once him and her are in full sync. And for the love of God, please bring John back to life in the first episode, even if it is at the end. I know that the show is supposed to be an alternate timeline, but the main reason for everyone watching this is because they want to see Chief be or become the badass that we all know and love. Again, nothing wrong with new creative directions, but at least try to make it less fan fiction and more realistic and in line with the source material where possible. Anyways, though, that's all I gotta say. I've probably missed some things, but I feel like I have talked about everything that personally stood out to me. I hope season 2 is better, but I'm not currently holding my breath all that much. So, and as I said before, I apologize for having to scroll back on the video to keep video going for this video, but I unfortunately didn't get as much video as I thought. If anything, I thought I would be done with this commentary before it ended, but, lessons for next time. But anyway, though, hope you guys enjoyed this review. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to see me do more reviews, just let me know. So, because this is the first review I've done, and not perfect, but I feel like it's not bad for what it is. But let me know, guys. Let me know down in the comments below. And until next time, I will check you guys out later. Graywolf out.